Hello and welcome to another episode of Improperly Packaged, a show where we unbox topics related to movies, TV, games, whatever. I am Jordan. With me is Luke. How are you doing today, my Luke?
Yo. What's up, everyone? I'm getting a little extra toasty today, Jordan.
Best one. Cheez-Its, extra toasty. Definitely the best one.
Is that right?
I think so.
They're too toasty for me.
Nope.
This is my first time having them.
I think
I want to try the extra cheesy. I think that might be more me.
I didn't even know there was an extra cheesy.
There's on the last one I got, it was like extra big. Yeah, here it is. Look.
Oh, there it is. That shows up really well
Extra
on camera.
big.
Extra big.
Extra cheesy.
I don't know about the extra big one. How big would you want them?
I know. Yeah, I agree.
Like what? You want it like a cookie size? That doesn't sound right to me. I don't know about that, but
No, they're bite size. They're perfect.
yeah,
Perfect
exactly.
size.
Shove like 2 or 3 of them in your mouth, you're good to go.
Yeah. But I think, I got to try extra cheesy.
Yeah, absolutely. We're wasting time, Luke. This is
That's
a
what we do.
big day.
That's what we're here for. Stretch it out.
We're reviewing Zack Snyder's Justice League today.
We are.
So,
it is a day.
Yeah, it's a momentous day. It feels, to me at least, it feels like something big to me. I don't know. It's weird because technically it's a movie that's already been released, but we can talk about
a long time ago
whether or not that's true or not. Whether this even counts as being the same movie. But anyways, before we get into that, let's go ahead and just jump into what we've been watching / playing / listening to. Luke, what have you been listening to?
I think it's your turn.
Is it? I think
it is.
Let's see. So a band that I bring up often on the podcast, they have a new EP out, and I'm going to promote it because I love this band. It's a new EP from The Midnight. Yeah, they have a new EP out called Horror Show. And it's
the Sax Brothers, as people call them.
The Sax Brothers, the sexy Sax Brothers. I mean,
I may have just made that up.
Maybe. I mean, but really there's not much left to say. It's more goodness. I mean, if you're worried about them changing up things and like losing their flair or whatever, nope, it's still great 80s synth pop, sexy sax awesomeness. I don't know. It's just great. It's just great. I mean, it's not like every song sounds the same. They're not the same in that kind of way. There's definitely some like really songs where like, oh, I haven't heard them play a song like this, but it's still true to what they do. And so, yeah, great stuff. The Midnight. Check them out. Luke, what have you been listening to?
So I did something that I'm going to suggest other people do.
Woo.
So other people may not listen to Spotify in the same way I do, which is my liked songs is like my curated. It's like sacred to me. And so there's something about liking songs on Spotify. So it creates, I mean, probably other things do this as well. But anyways, you hit that little heart. And it goes, it used to do actually a different category, and then they switched. It was kind of weird.
Start,
I now have,
right?
Yeah, I now have 2 playlists, like one from like pre-2015 or something, and then post-2015, which is like songs. Anyways, I have about 900, maybe a little bit more like songs at this point.
Lord have mercy.
And one frustrating thing is if you like an entire album, that means it adds the entire album onto there.
Yeah.
So I quickly, after the first time of doing that, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want this to be a playlist that I can go to literally at any moment and know if I hit shuffle, if I hit any song, I'm going to enjoy the song because
be a banger.
It's hand picked. So anyways, so I'll kind of like hit those liked, and then I'll, when I'm just feel like, okay, I want to go to something that I know I'm going to like. It's kind of fresh because I just heard it. Maybe it was on my release radar or it was on my Discover Weekly, one of those playlists. Anyways, long story, a long story that I made long, and I'm now going to shorten it, is that
retroactively,
I would suggest you go back if you do Spotify in that same way, or Apple Music, or God knows, Tidal, whatever, one of these music services, and you have something like that, just hit shuffle and just kind of go back, because it's kind of cool, because I immediately, when I did that, found old songs that I completely forgot that I had liked, completely forgot they existed. It just, week to week, I'll like enough songs that those songs will just get pushed down and they'll just get kind of lost in the, almost 1,000 song list I have now. So yeah, I would just suggest you do that. And
Mm-hmm.
the song I'm going to suggest because I did that is a song called "Sting" by this. I think it's just one lady, but she has a band called Scout, Skout. I think it's just Scout, but
SK.
hard to tell with these crazy spellings.
These crazy
Or maybe
kids.
it's like a guy and girl. I see in one that they're both in there, but I thought I'd seen others where it was just her. But anyway, she has a nice voice, and it's kind of mellow and guitar heavy song, and yeah,
Let me check it out. Sting. I
I,
will
I do want to
like
listen to
that.
some more of her stuff. That's right, curate that thing.
Curated.
Jordan.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, watching. I'm trying to keep this list short today because I really want to jump into this, and I have a feeling that this is going to be a lengthy conversation about Zack Snyder's Justice League. But so I want to talk about one movie I watched. So leading up to the Oscars, try to watch as many of these as I can. At least try to watch all the Best Picture nominations. So I checked out Trial of the Chicago 7 on Netflix. This has been out for a while. Me and my wife have been meaning to get around to it for a while. It's basically a story about these 7 protesters who got caught up in a lot of trouble, and there's a lot of controversy about this riots and who it was started by, and kind of just the story of what they're fighting for. And it's mainly a not crime drama, a courtroom drama really is where this takes place. It's mainly in the courtroom. There's a few flashbacks here and there, but mainly it's about the people on trial, the lawyers involved. And you know what, it's really entertaining. Like, it's surprisingly
It's an Aaron
so.
Sorkin joint, so it will be.
Yeah, exactly. It almost, like, when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is probably not going to win. Reason why, I'm like, it's too entertaining, because it's every now and then.
Aaron Sorkin can make like raking leaves interesting.
It seems like it. I mean, it's just, it's charming. I mean, it just, every cast member just has this charm to him. I guess that's his style. Like, it definitely seems completely unrealistic, whereas like there's no way this kind of wit was being thrown around by all these people, but what it lacks in probably realism, it really makes up for it in entertainment, because it's a lot of fun to watch, even though, and it's, you get invested in the story and like how everything's going to play out if you don't know how things went down, which I didn't. But it's interesting, the tale that's told, and yeah, it's an entertaining watch. I mean, Sacha Baron Cohen is in it. I mean, tons of people are in this freaking thing. Holy crap. There's so many people in this. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Eddie Redmayne, like, and the list goes on and on.
Just let me hit a few highlights just so people kind of have an idea of what this is. So Aaron Sorkin is mostly a writer.
Yeah.
And this is actually one of his first directorials. But The Social Network would be one that people would know. A Few Good Men would probably be the biggest one. Molly's Game. These are all he wrote for either for the screen or wrote the screenplay. Steve Jobs, Moneyball, Charlie Wilson's War, and probably the biggest long-running one, The West Wing. So
yeah,
just so people know, like, that's kind of his style. So the movie's probably going to be in similar.
Let's make a really conceptually kind of maybe boring thing and turn it into something that's way more entertaining than it has any right to be.
A Few Good Men was his first writing thing. That's
How about
insane.
that? Nice. Good
That
job.
movie's amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
Did it.
Yeah, he's a great writer.
Yeah, really great. That's what shines here. The acting's really good in this too. The acting's fantastic, and everyone.
I was very much on the fence on this one.
Oh, did you see it?
When I saw the trailer come
okay.
out? I never did, but yeah, I was well aware of it.
Yeah, it holds your attention all the way through, and the characters are entertaining and likable, and yeah, it's just a good watch. Check it out. Great movie. Luke, what do you got?
I've been just watching some stuff that I don't feel like talking about, like Reno 911, but
Yeah.
March Madness is probably the biggest thing I'm watching right now. We just finished up tonight. We finish up round 2 of March Madness. So yeah, Gators, our beloved Gators, they did well in the first game, but sadly they were upset by, oh gosh, I had the name and now I blanked on it. This small school that had just won their first tournament game in like 35 years,
That's
and then they
embarrassing.
upset the Gators. Oh, I'm gonna think of it as soon as we finish this conversation. Oh, I can't remember it. Man.
Just blurt it out midway through our Justice League review.
Well, anyways, yeah, I've been watching basketball, and yeah, it's fun to watch March Madness. That was one of the things that got canceled last year, so none of us basketball fans got to watch any of that last year, but they were able to do it this year, and they actually have some fans in the stands, and that's great. It really makes sports so much more enjoyable when you get that crowd reaction, and it's just like, I don't know, it brings up emotions when it's like a great dunk or baseball, a home run. I mean, it's sad when somebody hits a home run in baseball and nobody does anything. It's just like, the few guys on the field are cheering, but it's like dead silence. It's like, it's a home run. Like
they need like a laugh track, like in oh shoot, we hit the wrong one.
Yeah, they did that, but I don't know. It's weird when the stands are empty and then they're making noise. Like I remember like the LA Rams when they were playing football this season, they had that like jacked up, like that laugh track, that like cheering track.
Yeah, cheer track.
But then it's like completely empty. It's like, not the same.
Not the same.
When you know it's that and you see it empty, it's like, okay, this is fake.
Yeah.
I see behind the curtain. So anyways, yeah. March Madness. Exciting, but I'm sad to say the Gators lost.
Woot woot, but still kind of sad. Got anything else?
Let's get into this craziness.
Let's do it. Here we go. This is it. We're talking about the 4-hour Zack Snyder's Justice League. So it's interesting. I think like everyone's called it the Snyder Cut for the longest time, and it's kind of hard to break that. But you know what? Like, definitely, especially after seeing this, calling it Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think, is the most appropriate thing to call it, because before we even get into it, this is a preamble. This is unlike anything I've ever seen as far as like there's director's cuts, there's extended editions, there's all that stuff. This is beyond and separate, I think, from those kind of things.
Probably at least 60% a different movie.
At least, man. It's like it's like a lot of stuff there's a lot of stuff that's completely different, and a lot of stuff that is changed. Like we're talking like there'll be there's a part where, like, for instance, in the movie, the original, Steppenwolf and Wonder Woman are having an exchange before they fight.
Every part of everything, Jordan.
Yeah, and
every part is completely different.
And just this dialogue they have is different. And it's like, it just makes me wonder, think so many questions about how these changes occurred and what did they have to do to change what this is into that, and what that is back to this, and add a little bit more. It is like, regardless, I've been saying this all along, regardless of what I think about the finished product, this thing is fascinating, and like it's crazy to me, because I think this is something that will be studied down the road, not in the same way Citizen Kane is, but to say, okay, let's watch this one, and what's different? Why was this decision made? What is the difference there? What change here made this good, and what change here made this bad, and stuff like that is, I love it. I love that kind of thing. And so from that standpoint, it's obviously very fascinating, but I can't wait to talk about this, man. So let's get into it. Kind of like maybe
I'd be interested just to know how much stuff was still left on the cutting room floor.
I know.
Like, if this was all left out of the original movie, like, how many takes did they do? How many scripted versions was there? Because it seems like most movies, I mean, we don't see behind the scenes, but it seems like most movies are probably scripted about the same. And then maybe they say, okay, well, you can try improvising a little bit here and a little bit there. But this was like, they scripted some of these scenes in a couple different ways and then filmed all those ways. I guess Zach was like, I want to get this right, so I'm going to do it a bunch of different ways, and then I'll figure it out in the editing room.
I guess so. I mean, there are legends surrounding this movie. It has its own. It has its own myth makers, like talking about there's actually 7 different cuts of this thing. Actually, this could be like an hour longer. Like there's like so many different
Insane.
myths and cut and like talking about what was on the script and what the intentions were and reasons behind some of the changes. It has its own lore behind it. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
it's wild to me.
To me, whenever I think about this cut and this movie, I think of Jason Momoa, because I think he was one of the first ones to like bring up, no, that's not the movie that I saw behind the scenes. Like, you need to see that. That was a badass movie.
Yeah. And
finally got his wish.
Exactly. He was one of the first ones to champion this thing, which obviously inspired so many to go after it, which wow. And I'll go out and say it. I'll come out and say it. I was not a believer. I was very much like, yeah, I mean, it probably exists, but it's not finished and it's not going to be funded and we're never going to see it.
No one will re-release a movie in a new cut. That never happens.
Well, yeah, but yeah, I just didn't.
Which it never does.
Never does. And I was thinking, if it is changed, it's not going to be in the way people think it is. Get ready for a letdown, people, or get ready for it to be just like a few extra scenes on top of the movie you already saw. Yeah, I'm wrong. So
pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. Let's jump into it. Just quick non-spoiler takes on the movie. Luke, what did you think of Zack Snyder's Justice League?
I thought it improved on a movie that when I originally saw Justice League, I thought it was all right. I didn't, Batman vs. Superman, I came out of it thinking I hated that movie. It was terrible. But Justice League, I came out of it thinking, okay, I think this is better than Batman vs. Superman, but it was very confusing, cut up, and yeah, I just didn't come away feeling great about it. And then when I saw more of the movie later, I actually started to like it less.
Yeah.
And so I, saw this, which we went ahead and watched Justice League, the original, before we watched this, so I could compare.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty fresh on both versions. And yeah, I think it's hard for anyone, I imagine, to say that this isn't better. I mean, the only reason I could see someone not saying that would just be a length issue. They just have a problem with the length and just how too much to keep up with, that kind of thing. This is definitely a movie for comic book fans, so I could see that being an argument, but I would say it definitely improves on it, but it still doesn't make it a movie that I'm super down on. It's just down with, not down on. That's the opposite meaning. So yeah, it definitely improves it, but yeah, I still have my issues with this movie for sure.
Yeah, I obviously I've only seen this once, and I actually, before we did this podcast, I went back and I watched a few little scenes again here and there, just because I wanted to remember a few details from it a little bit. It's a long movie. There's a lot going on. Sometimes it's hard to remember little things here and there because there's, as you said before we recorded, so many scenes. And so it's hard to kind of recall a lot of the stuff that happened. But yeah, I came away, at least after the first time watching it, I like this movie a lot. I think I just had a really great time watching it. It's, that being said, it's hard. I've never watched a movie like this in like the same mind. It's hard to get into the mindset of, I'm watching a movie, let's see if I like this movie, when it's like this, because there's so many outside things being like, oh, remember the first one, and you're comparing it to the first one, and oh wow, that's so much better than the first one.
And there's been so much talk since then,
so
too,
much talk
that you've done with other people, you've heard other people do, you've heard podcasts talk about. It's like there's been so much said about Justice League.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's also really
it's like,
hard.
It's like when I watch Citizen Kane. It's like I've heard so much about Citizen Kane, then I watch it for the first time. So yeah, I think I would have a completely different experience if I'd never seen it. And I probably would with this movie as well if I'd never seen it before.
Absolutely. And, and it's also, as you said, this is for comic book nerds. Not just people who are like, I like Iron Man.
Very much so.
But this is for comic book nerds. Like,
this is very confusing for people who are just like, I want to see a movie about things that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the proposition of, oh, it's 4 hours. For me, that's like, for a movie like this, like from a nerd standpoint, that's exciting. From like a film standpoint, that's insane. And so for if you're just, I like movies, I like action movies, I like some superhero movies. You're in for a strange world with this that you may or may not jive with. And it's kind of, in that sense, it's hard to recommend. It's one of those things where it's like my
Yeah.
mom can watch Endgame and come away being like, that was great. I don't know what I don't think my mom would get into this at all. I think
No.
she'd be like, this is weird. And then like,
Even Endgame would probably be confusing.
mm-hmm.
But yeah. So this was like a whole nother level of confusing.
Oh, absolutely. A whole nother level. But
because you also, with Endgame, like, a lot of people have seen those Marvel movies. They've been introduced to those characters, and they probably at least have some scratch on the surface idea of what's going on with the story. This, it's like, who are these people? What are they doing?
Yeah.
It's just been like, what? Superman? Like, there hasn't been much introduction. Wonder Woman? Like, there's been like 2 movies before this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that being said, people who are into this, people who are into the DCEU, even if you're critical, highly critical of the DCEU, I think check this out. If you're a fan of the DCEU and you're a big champion of the Snyder Cut and like you're looking forward to it, I think this is gonna give you what you wanted. I think this is going to fulfill your hopes, which I think is saying a lot because hopes were extremely high for a lot of these people, and I can't believe I'm saying that. But there's something about this movie where you said, watching that last movie, something felt wrong. Like we talked about this a few times where you're like, moments will happen, you're like, something's wrong. There's a lot of that in that movie where you're just like, something's not right.
Mustache Gate was the first, like the very first thing. It was like,
yeah,
this has no business being in this movie. And this is how they chose to start it?
Absolutely. It's strange, such a strange thing that it's going to be one of those things where this movie is like to look at it as it is, but also to look at it, it's almost like in a way, like a constant damnation of the original, because like makes the original even more head scratching. It really does. It makes it baffling. And you know what? Unless I'm just so curious, I'm probably never going to watch that version ever again. The original, or I mean, we're probably just gonna end up calling this one Justice League and that one Justice League, a lot of people call it, but it's wild.
That's funny.
It is wild. But that being said, I personally, I'll not follow about other people, I personally really enjoyed this movie. It did a lot of things for me that satisfied me in a lot of ways what I was looking for in a Justice League movie. In a lot of ways, a lot of the characters that I had problems with were either better or completely fixed. In my view, like characters like Cyborg, for instance, I feel are a reinvention from in comparison to the last movie, which is
he definitely had a lot more backstory. That's for sure.
No kidding. Like there's lines.
He just was like dropped into the movie in the old cut.
I'm here. Let's go. Like lines that were groan inducing. A lot of them are gone. CGI artifacts, then like scenes that looked unfinished. A lot of those are gone. And like a big thing, which I did not think was going to be a big thing. Like, honestly, the whole color correction that was done to the movie, like the original cut, the way they made that like super colorful and whatever, man, that ruined the movie. That like literally ruined the look of the movie. I mean, regardless what you think about dark and gritty superhero movies, it took like most of the time. I think Zack Snyder's Justice League is a good looking movie. I think it looks good. Like I think the way things are lit, I'm like, oh, I guess this is how I was meant to see it. It literally like. It's like I put my glasses on. Like, oh, now I can see the movie for how it's supposed to look.
What do you think about 4x3?
4x3 is something I'm still iffy on. I'm still kind of like, I kind of got a primer for it before I watched this movie because before I think it was Wednesday, I rewatched Batman v Superman. So they like all the IMAX scenes they had in that movie were unreleased in physical and digital form until recently. They have a new physical copy, which I did not buy, but they updated all the digital copies of that movie to include these IMAX scenes, and they are in that same format that the entire Zack Snyder Justice League movie is in. So several scenes in that movie are now that way, and I was kind of primed for it, and it didn't distract me too much. I'm still, it's still in a way where you're like, huh. I'm not sure how I feel about it. There's in some scenes I think it looks good. In other scenes I feel claustrophobic. That's just so yeah, I'm divided on it. Well, how about you? What do you think about the 4x3?
I see no point.
Yeah.
I just don't think it served a purpose. I think 4x3 is, first of all, it's an artifact of the past, and to me, the only reason you would bring it back is if you're really trying to like make a statement with your movie about it. I think of Lighthouse as like one of the only examples in recent memory that did it for a reason, and it made sense to me. But I never like being constrained in the format. It's like I want to see more in any movie.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are going to do it, like there better be a darn good reason for it. And to me, it's like, this is a movie about superheroes and a lot of action. So I want to see as much as possible. If anything, I want it like 23 by 9, you know, instead of 16 by 9. Like,
Yeah.
I want it super widescreen. So yeah, I didn't get it. I also don't get why so many pictures came out black and white of this movie. Nothing was in black and white, so I don't really.
There's a trend that I'm not too
don't know.
don't really understand with the whole black and white versions of movies. They did this with Logan, where they have a black and white version. They have a silver and like a black and chrome version of Mad Max Fury Road that's black and white. I just don't get that craze. I just don't. I know a lot of people really appreciate it and think it's beautiful, and they're going to release a black and white version on HBO Max of Justice League, but I don't know. Whatever that's for, whoever that's for, it's there. But I'm glad it's not like, and we're changing it to black and white. Please don't.
Oh God.
Yeah. But from what I understand, this 4x3 aspect ratio, it's like, okay, so on home releases of a lot of IMAX movies, what you'll see, like a lot of the Transformers movies do this, is where you have the letterbox and then an IMAX scene will happen, and then it takes up the full screen of the whatever widescreen TV you have. It'll take up the entire full screen without letterboxing or any of that stuff. But from what I've heard a lot of people say, that's not true IMAX frame, because IMAX frames are tall, not wide. And so that is his
cut a little bit.
Yeah, that is his way of trying to bring that IMAX experience home, which I will say to that, we don't have IMAX screens at home.
No.
And so
TVs are not tall enough, so
yeah,
we're not going to get that same thing.
And so personally, I don't know if it gives the experience that he's going for, but I'd be happy to talk to someone who has a different experience or different opinion than that. But yeah, that's I don't know. That is something that, I kind of wish there would be an option, at least. Like when this movie comes on 4K Blu-ray, which I will buy, I hope there is an option to switch over to like a more wide, a screen that takes up the full real estate of your television set.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I can't imagine watching that. It'll be hard. We both have pretty large televisions at home. It'll be very hard if you had like, say, a 40-inch or God forbid, like a 32 or something like that.
Or your phone.
Or your freaking phone. Yeah. For instance, it's like
watch it on an airplane on your phone or something.
Can you watch it in like Tubi mode? How like, the Tubi app, it takes up your vertical.
That's true. Hey.
Maybe, I don't know.
That'd probably look a lot better, honestly.
Maybe,
probably would.
Maybe that's a little too thin. But anyways, yeah.
Or just don't watch it on your phone. Wait till after the flight.
Yeah. So real quick before we get into like spoiler talk, something that is interesting. I did a little experiment here because I once again found myself being really underwhelmed with HBO Max's 4K HDR presentation over streaming. I was like, this looks fine. It's definitely HD, but it doesn't impress me at all. I think this is something with, I don't know what it is, with the PlayStation 5 app.
Hmm.
The PlayStation 5 app, I feel like, is for some reason needs fixing. I don't know what the deal is. Because today, when I went home and I looked at some of these scenes that I went back at, I did it on Chromecast. Like, my TV has built-in Chromecast, and I just cast it to the television.
Right.
Looked perfect. It looked fantastic. I was like, wow. That's where I like came away and I was like, this movie is really good looking. Holy crap. Like, I was watching just a few of the action scenes. I was like, this is great. This is fantastic. I can't wait to own it on 4K. If I ever watch it again before that, I'm definitely going to watch it this way. But PlayStation or HBO Max, I don't know who's responsible. Fix that crap.
It's so weird.
I was trying on the Xbox Series S also to see if there's a difference there. I know you watch it on your Apple TV.
Everything's Apple TV. I love that thing.
Yeah.
I will never use anything else.
Apple.
Can't go back.
No going back. Need to invest in that crap, I guess. Get the maximum.
Well, it's also like
quality.
it works with your phone, you know, like super well. Like if I'm like feeding the baby, like I can just grab my phone and I can now control my Sonos, my TV, and my Apple TV. So like everything's controlled right from my phone.
Yeah.
Like I can have a remote to turn on my TV, to change the volume on the Sonos, and Google does it. So I don't know. It's just a nice thing.
Something that's really, really difficult in this movie, if you're trying to get to a specific part, it's very difficult because this movie is so long that if you move your finger just a little bit on that little tracker, you're going a long way.
Yeah.
You're going way further than you thought you did. You're like, okay, well, that's several scenes away. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How much of this movie is there? All right. Let's get into this. Let's talk about this. There's so much to talk about as far as like, if you think too much, if you think that this is like, well, it's just the original with new scenes. It's like seeing it from like the beginning is a shocker. I think the very first opening scene is like, what? This is crazy. And it kind of announces what you're in for with this movie. And I think, at least. What do you think?
I agree. I still didn't like how they still like went to characters that they hadn't introduced. That's the thing I don't like about Justice League at all. Is just that we don't know these characters. Like, especially if this movie had come out when this movie was released, like we don't know any of these people. Aquaman wasn't out at that point. We don't know these people.
Yep.
Like, so Cyborg was just like there. That's still something that annoyed me in this version too. It just, I don't know. Just Marvel does such a good job of like introducing you, easing you into characters. Like the main character, you know, then meets the person doing something, and I don't know. It just like eases their way in till you get familiar with them, and then the stuff starts to happen. This movie still is like, I don't know. It just it to me it always bit off more than it could chew, and I still feel like it bit off more than it could chew.
This is a problem with not just like DC, but a lot of like, even actually aside from Marvel, a lot of like superhero and sci-fi, anything that's like based on something, they'll do this thing where it's like assumed knowledge because they're fans writing the thing. They forget that they need to introduce you to people, and so you're like, look, it's Cyborg. You know Cyborg. It was like, well,
yeah.
You shouldn't assume that. And if you you don't know this Cyborg. And so, yeah, that's true. That's a real thing. What did you think about this whole screaming into the heavens to kind of like set this ripple throughout the world to awaken the coming?
I thought it was a much better explanation for it, but I don't know. It still was like, I guess maybe I'm giving Superman more credit than he deserves, but it's like, maybe don't do that. maybe I mean, obviously he didn't know, but it's like I guess I feel like Superman would know, and it's like, shut up, like don't do that, like you're gonna bring horrible things to Earth, so shh.
Something that's always frustrating me, it seems like Superman's like the least informed person like around usually.
But he's like built up to this level where you feel like he's like omnipotent almost.
Yeah.
He's not, but he's like the ultimate superhero in every way. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm probably giving him more credit than he deserves, but it certainly is a much better explanation than before, which was just like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Here we go. Accept it.
There's something about it that is inherently ridiculous, but at the same time, I don't know. I love it. I don't know why. I just like I saw it and I was like, that's such a neat idea, even though it is kind of ridiculous.
It's good.
I don't know. Just
hey, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not down with all this, but I'm so glad that this made it more enjoyable for you because I know that this is really important to you.
There was something that hurts.
It's Superman. It's like your favorite guy. So, yeah.
Yeah, it made the
plus this may be the last time we see Henry Cavill as Superman. So
absolutely,
like at least they justified it a little bit better.
Yeah, and I have some things to say as well about Zack Snyder and Deborah Snyder's conception of Superman and how they write him, but we'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting way to open the movie, and I think from there it kind of goes to something more familiar. I think it goes from like to the Aquaman scene, but again, everything feels different. It's not like anytime we say we go into this scene that was in the last movie, it's there, but it's different. The dialogue's different, the framing of it's different, the pacing of it is different. And sometimes I think the pacing of things getting slowed down is good, and sometimes I think it's bad. There'll be scenes where I'm like, you can cut that out. You can cut that out. There's something that frustrates me sometimes. Nolan, I think this is one of his weaknesses. Like he sometimes.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I know.
Attacking my boy.
I know. We jump around a lot in a lot of Nolan movies. There's a lot of hopping around. There's a lot of hopping around in this movie, and I think they sometimes do a bad job in this. But something I'm a sucker for is establishing shots. I think establishing shots are really important for me to orient myself into my environment and where we are. And this movie has that in a lot. It has a lot of that. Maybe too much of that at times is the problem. I think a little of this goes a long way where Nolan is like, sometimes you'll be like, we're on a plane. And then all of a sudden you're in a room and you're like, well, where's that room? But yeah, he's like, there's not a lot of hand holding there, but sometimes Zack Snyder does a lot of hand holding with his visuals, but either way, yeah, it's there.
The Aquaman scene to me is a good example of, I guess, how I feel about most of the scenes. Well, so that generalization can't be made because many of the scenes weren't in the original. But for the scenes that were in the original cut, flowed a little bit along the same lines in this movie, I will say that every one of them was improved. I agree with that. But that still, to me, doesn't completely justify them. I still... it all comes back to I really didn't like that Aquaman movie, so it's hard for me to get down with Aquaman at all because they didn't establish a good character for me. So anyways, it still to me was still confusing, like so much in this movie. It's just, here's somebody, we need to make them part of the team. You don't know anything about this. Like, I guess I'm coming, we've already talked about this a little bit, but I'm coming at it a little bit like, if I'm just watching this as a movie, like, I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm like, who is this? What is he asking about? Why are they making it seem like wink, wink here when I don't know what they're winking about?
Yeah.
Like, there's some guy here and somehow he knows that it's him. And so I guess we're just going to have to move on from that fact and stop repeating it and just say, okay, that's what this movie does. Get used to it.
Like a lot of the things that are in this movie we're always going to be subpar like that because of the foundations.
Because of the way they chose to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They
chose to skip right into this.
Exactly. They chose to introduce Aquaman in a random video file on a Lex Luthor hard drive. And so, and so when you're seeing him and you're like, that's Aquaman. It's like, well, you don't know this Aquaman. You should have no reason to be excited to see him. They need to earn that, right? And so, again, assumed knowledge is there. But I think the scene's pretty well done. I mean, they cut out a lot of jokes. Sometimes the jokes work in the last one, but most of the times I feel like they are worth cutting out.
The Flash stuff, I like the Flash. They did a lot better. But like he was so leaned on as the comic relief in every single scene. And I'm sorry, but the lines are just really dumb. Like most of the time, there's these like little one-liner things, and it's like, I get you're trying. But it's like maybe just don't try if it's not going to work. Like Marvel does comedy. I'm sorry. Like maybe you just need to accept that you're just a dark movie, and it's not a lighthearted movie. It's just, I don't know.
It came off as, to me, obnoxious, where it's like
The things they say are just silly. It's like what kids would say. It's like, okay, you're supposed to be this like really smart dude, and you're not acting like it.
Yeah, a lot of that has been cut. There's still some stuff in there with the Flash that gets under my skin here and there. That's in this cut for sure. That I'm like, this isn't funny. Stop.
Yeah, I just wish it was funny, or it just didn't bother trying.
Exactly, because
they sit somewhere in between.
Sometimes it feels so labored. You know, there's a few scenes where like you're like, ooh, they're really trying here to make this really funny and likable, but it's not.
Yeah.
That happens a lot less in this one, but it's not, every now and then it rears its ugly head. Okay, so again, there's gonna be a lot of scenes, a lot here and there. Like a lot of the stuff that's in this movie, it's a lot of in between scenes, like a lot of context adding scenes. But yeah, and there's some things that are just entirely different. But what we get next, I believe, is the Wonder Woman action scene that was in the first movie, but here comes off different to me. What did you think of this? This introduction.
I didn't like it, honestly. I just didn't like it. It didn't make any sense. It didn't tie into anything. There was no backstory. It was just, hey, terrorist. What do you know? Like it was the most manufactured way of introducing her. We had Wonder Woman, right? This was after Wonder Woman.
This was after Wonder Woman. Yes.
Probably it was Batman versus Superman, then Wonder Woman, then this movie, right? Am I remembering right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then after this movie came Aquaman, right? Isn't that how it went?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like we know who Wonder Woman is. So it's like, to me, that kind of gives you a little bit more of a free pass to just kind of like touch base with her, see where she's at, and then like maybe she makes contact with Batman because she, you know, I think it would have been better if it's like her people had contacted her and then she contacted Batman. I don't think it was needed. It felt like the fat had been left in, and I felt like that could have been trimmed out. I mean, it was a cool scene.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel like it fit in the movie at all. It just was like, if this was part of like, it reminded me a lot of Dark Knight. It was like, if this was part of, the whole like Joker's like, plan or something, it would have made sense and been cool. And I would like that. It would be cool if Wonder Woman teamed up in a Batman movie to like defeat, a Joker like thing. But this felt like, what? Who are these people? Like,
yeah.
You have this guy who seems like he'd make a really good bad guy, but he just plays this minuscule little role where he's trying to bomb and then shoot people. And it's like, I don't know. Just, this movie's long enough. That scene could have just been left out to me.
It's like, I like stuff like this in a superhero movie here and there, where it's like, okay, here's just a thing that the hero can handle really quick just to give you a badass action scene.
It's a big thing, though. We're going to blow several blocks of London away.
Absolutely. And they're like, what are they talking about? We're gonna send humanity back in the Dark Ages. How is blowing up 4 blocks going to accomplish that? And so it's like they're doing something that doesn't really make sense. It's literally just an excuse for Wonder Woman to come crashing in and doing a thing. And so for me, all it needs to fulfill for me is this is a cool action scene. And this is like, and it's been re-edited or like stuff added into it. There's been a lot of action added into the scene, and it's been like a lot of things have been like elongated. Certain cuts have been shortened, certain cuts have been expanded.
Yeah, when she goes up with the bomb, it definitely was played out better.
Yeah, and there's like a few scenes where she's blocking more bullets and throwing more people a little bit harder. And there's like something that she does. One good thing that adds tension that wasn't in the original is she was dodging the bullets that they were firing her at a machine gun. But there was this part I thought was just a cool addition. She was dodging the bullets without even looking at them because she was focused in on the bomb ticking down, which I thought was just a cool thing. She didn't even need to focus on the bullets, but she was just concerned looking at her next step. I think it was just a cool little action moment. But I don't know. A lot of people don't like the crab walkie thing where she's with the machine gun. I love that. I love that crap. Blocking all those bullets. Do you like the thing where she like kind of, they do this thing where they'll go into slow motion, but then they'll like try to show off her speed, and she'll like kind of zip here and there to like knock people out?
Yeah, I mean, the things you're listing right now, I don't have a problem with it. I just didn't feel like the scene at all mattered, but I mean, I am totally fine with Wonder Woman doing all those things. It just, I mean, it just didn't flow with the rest of the movie at all. It's
Yeah.
like the things that you're mentioning, I think of like Spider-Man is like a best example of when they make that work.
Yeah.
It's like he strings up some bad guys in an alley. He gets a purse back for a lady that had it stolen. Like that kind of thing makes sense. This was like, it felt like the beginning of Dark Knight. Like I said, it felt like when they backed the bus up, like Bethany was mentioning, she felt the same way. It's like, it felt like when they backed the bus up to the bank and then they robbed the bank. It's like you were introduced to the Joker at that moment.
Yeah.
This is Heath Ledger's Joker. This is his, modus operandi. And it's like, awesome. I'm so down for this movie. And this was like, almost felt so much like they were trying to do that, but it's like, we already know who Wonder Woman is. Are these people going to play a role in the movie? No. And they should have. If they were going to do that, they should have. They should have been helping out Darkseid somehow or something. Like it wouldn't have been that hard to script that into cohesion with the rest of the story.
I think so. I think you're right. Definitely. I think these kind of scenes are better if there is something there that they're either setting up for later in the movie
or make it much smaller.
Yeah.
Like do what you're saying, but make it much smaller. Don't have it be a whole terrorist organization with a proclamation and there's hundreds of cops outside and it's like, oh, this is a huge thing, and oh, it's over.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed the scene. I agree with that method, basically, of you should make it matter in some extent. Again, unless your main thing is something like Spider-Man, where he's half the time is swooping down and doing random crime solving. That's like kind of his thing. Whereas Wonder Woman, we don't really see her doing that sort of thing very often. And so, yeah.
And if she is, just have it be a bank robbery. Simple as that.
Yeah.
It's a bank robbery. She stopped it. Oh, wait a minute. I hear a ripple in the Matrix or whatever.
Yeah. I don't really, again, this is going to be really bad because there's so many different scenes. It's hard to even say what comes next. So we're just kind of going to flow through it and pick up stuff that stood out to us throughout the movie. So this isn't going to be like a play-by-play, and there's going to be a lot of comparisons.
There's way too much.
Way too much. All night. We're not going to be here for 4 hours. Because I think we talked about that scene longer than that scene even took place. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. But they cut out a cringer there where there was a line that said, like, I don't believe it. What are you? And she said, I'm a believer. And it was a stupid line that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, Lord.
And they cut it down to, I don't believe it. Believe it. And that's cliche. Good enough for me. Way better than I'm a believer. What does she mean?
It's like low hanging fruit too. It's like,
yeah,
come on, Josh Whedon. Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
He must have had some like bad clam chowder or something before he went onto that set, because he's a very capable director.
He came off the heels of Avengers. Praise left and right. I'm going to come into this DC universe and I'm going to show them charm,
rock their world,
whippiness like you wouldn't believe.
He like tripped as soon as he came in the door.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah. Okay. Anywho, next up, I think we get a few scenes with Cyborg. We get a lot with Cyborg. I think he's almost like, aside from maybe Batman and Wonder Woman, he's probably the most focused on, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that only leaves Aquaman and Flash.
I feel like actually Aquaman probably has the least to do in this movie. I think as a character, he doesn't really have.
It should be.
Yeah. He doesn't have much of an arc.
His powers, it does kind of make sense too. So,
Yeah.
In this case, what's going on is much more of a land thing. Don't need the water stuff as much, but glad you're there to Spike, what's his name in the back?
Yeah, I mean, don't get us. Everyone is improved by this cut of the movie, but I think Aquaman just improves the least. I mean, he wasn't that bad in the original, but he just isn't given much. But he's better, but he's not like amazing or anything. He's not like in it a lot. He doesn't have like a full story arc that's gonna make you well up or anything. But yeah,
I mean, he's not as good of an actor as these other guys.
Yeah,
just be honest.
That's true. So what did you think about this Cyborg stuff? I mean, we get a lot. Like, there's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he Ray Fisher, he does a great job. I think he does as good as you can expect for, a superhero character that's 90% robot, tiny part human. So, I think he did a perfectly fine job, and I'm glad he was given a lot more screen time. He deserved it. It just the role he played at the end, it needed to be built up that he was like part of the leadership of the team.
Yeah.
And that shone through. That got to shine through in this version of the movie a lot more, for sure.
Absolutely. And I like, there's this whole thing with his father, which I think is pretty well done. He's not like, there's no things that people do that when they're mad at their dads and you're watching it, like maybe if you were in his shoes, you'd feel differently, but from the outside looking in, it's hard for you to root for characters because they sometimes can be like too despicable to their parents. Like there's a lot of scenes, like movies back in the 90s where, you know, a mom will die or something and the kid will say to their dad, I wish it was you instead. And we're like, well, I hate you now as a character. They don't veer too far into that. There's a scene that I really liked where he saves his dad and he's like, I wasn't sure you were going to come. He's like, you're my father, even though he still really doesn't like him at this point in the movie. He's like, you're my father. Of course I'm going to come and save you, you know, and that's good.
They also didn't explain his father much at all in the original cut of this movie.
Nope.
And this, it's like, father actually played a really important role in the end of this movie. And yeah, they built him up a lot more. Just, I mean, they fleshed out the character just in general so much more. So definitely improvement.
Yeah, they show you what happens to Cyborg in this one. They don't even tell you in the original cut of this movie.
Some stuff happened, and this is how I ended up.
Exactly. Oh, okay, great.
Crap went down. I don't want to get into it, okay?
Yeah. And his powers...
Get into it. This is the only movie you've ever been in.
And will probably ever be.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
That's sad.
That is very sad. I'd love to see more of this character, but...
Crazy.
Yeah. But we get a full explanation. There's a big montage where his dad on a recorder is explaining his powers. And he's like, literally, there's a visualization of him walking through like something like this digital like cyberspace in his own head of all the things that he can do. I like this kind of stuff. I think it's cool. It makes it like how powerful he is not something that they kind of lean into in the original. His powers were way more like obscure. Like, what are his powers? What are his things? All right, lasers and computer stuff.
Basically, the only thing we knew is we vaguely understood that he was birthed out of use of the change engine.
Exactly.
Mother box or whatever. I guess it's all kind of the same thing. It's like mother box came together to form the change engine. So whatever.
Yeah.
Same thing. And that's about all we knew.
Yeah. You know, we get a lot
until he's ripping the boxes apart. It's like it literally, he didn't do much until then. It's like, oh, he has a gun that auto turrets to shoot Superman, and then oh, apparently he's strong enough to rip apart the 3 mother boxes.
Exactly. And so yeah, I like this. I mean, there's the line that I really liked that he said, something like, "It's not the problem is, you know, what you won't do, not what you can do, because like not doing the things that you can do is going to be the real challenge for you, because you control all the nukes, you control all the banks in the entire world, the stock market, everything."
The crazy thought.
Yeah, you got it. And it's so cool how they visualize it with him like holding all the nukes and seeing like everyone's bank accounts. And he does something that I think is probably morally objectionable, is he actually like gives this woman money out of nowhere, which, you know, is a Robin Hood kind of thing to do, but it makes sense with his character, even though
I don't remember that.
He like sees her life and he like kind of makes a judgment call, how like he just sees this random woman, how she's like waiting tables and has a rough shot. She's about to get evicted. She's a single parent with a bunch of kids, and she like sees her money visualized as a little pile of dollars and nickels and dimes, and like raises it up to be like hundreds of thousands of dollars, being like, and her like ATM's like, you won the something or whatever, and he's like watching it happen.
I don't remember all that detail. Okay.
Yeah, and that's built up because he made that same decision. That actually makes sense for his character, because he made the same judgment call where he's like, he was a hacker in his life. He did stuff with a computer. So he changed his friend's grades because she was going through some stuff and they lost their house or something. And so he changed their friend's grades. So whether or not you agree with that, which I don't, it's makes sense for his character. And that's good stuff. I really like it, actually. I'm like, holy crap. He was pissed. He was pissed and bitter after that cut was released. And seeing this, I can understand why.
Yeah.
He got the shaft worse than anyone else even Lipgate.
Absolutely.
Or Mustache Gate. What are we calling
I don't know about that.
it?
That may have been the worst thing I've ever seen.
Maybe it was maybe one of the biggest shadows that hung over that first movie. It couldn't even be mentioned without
The fact
talking
that it
about
was the first thing you see was, I think, it just made it worse.
Yeah, let it be said, none of that is in this movie. There is not a single Mustache Gate scene in this, and it's completely genuine Henry Cavill lip all the way through.
Yeah, there was one part where he looked a little odd.
Yeah.
I will say. There was one part Bethany and I were both like, he looks a little strange there.
Which part was it?
It wasn't Lipgate, but it was shortly after he changed suits, and I don't know. It was somewhere in there. It was like, I don't know. His face just looked strange. It almost looked airbrushed or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was nothing like that, but it was
like
a little like, that looks odd.
What did you think of the siege or the infiltration of Themyscira this time around? I guess I should say.
It was definitely explained better, wasn't it? I mean, the action flowed better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's still. I just feel like I'm repeating myself, but it still just feels like if you don't know what that is, you'll come into that scene being like, where are we?
Yeah, but that being said, out of everything, we have the best explanation for the Wonder Woman stuff. The Wonder Woman stuff, like Themyscira, we should have some sort of familiarity with at least the environment and where we are and what this civilization is all about, because we were, theoretically, if you saw the movie, introduced to Wonder Woman before this. Yeah. I just think it's a lot better. Just again, I think
they made him look not as awful.
Yeah,
they made him look like rag dolls in front of him.
Yeah, before. Exactly. And there was a badass moment I thought was awesome. It was like a 300. I mean, obviously Zack Snyder 300, but it was a 300 line. I was like, that is awesome. Where he was like, I shall bathe in your fear. And he's like, daughters of Themyscira, show him your fear. We have no fear. I was actually like enthralled by that scene. I thought that line was so BA. It was definitely like a Spartan moment. I thought it was awesome.
Like I said, definitely an improvement.
Yeah. And it's little nips and tucks here, but probably one of the biggest is, the whole thing comes down. Instead of this, one of the worst parts of the original movie, I remember there was this part where Steppenwolf just jumps out of the and it looks awful.
Cuts through it with his axe.
Yeah, and it looks like he's in like a Windows XP wallpaper. And I was like, that looks horrible. Because it wasn't in the movie. That was a reshoot.
That's another thing. I hate being a complainer, but that's the thing I still have a problem with this movie.
We need balance, Luke.
Steppenwolf is so CGI.
Oh, yeah.
He looks better in this one, but he's so CGI'd. And one of the nice things about Marvel is, yes, one character is completely CGI, but I mean, I guess Groot is too. I don't know. They do something much better about the way they do it. It just... Steppenwolf's such an important part of this movie. He literally is driving like the main premise of everything in this entire film, and just doesn't look that good to me. Like Thanos, I don't know. They're really two sides of the same coin when it comes to like Thanos and Steppenwolf. They're two giant guys that are conquering the worlds. So.
I mean, here it is.
There's something about all CGI characters. I've never liked that in anything.
I think I can kind of tell you why. I think for some of it, at least. I mean, not to try to explain your feelings, but like, okay, so the original Steppenwolf or whatever, the one that was in the Joss Whedon cut, he was almost like an Uncanny Valley kind of thing. They made him a little more human, and it looked awful. Like they tried to make him a little more like Thanos-y, where he's like, has human features. He has human, like you look at him and you're like, he's just like a different race of whatever. And so, but with this one, and that obviously didn't work. It looked awful. It looked terrible. It was just a really hard miss when it came to that. It was like, this one is like, okay, no, he's an alien. We're just going to make him look like an alien monster. And that's what they did. And you don't get the benefits of having a Thanos or someone who has like eyes you can look at and you see a person, or you see like a character. You look at Steppenwolf here and you see a monster alien that you have to fight.
Yeah.
And while he looks a lot better, I think he looks a lot more threatening. Yeah, he does not look great compared to a lot of the really great CGI creations that we've had with Marvel and other things. Like,
Yeah.
he just doesn't look like something you can really attach yourself to. He's just like, kill that thing, right? Just kill that.
Yeah.
Kill it with fire.
I agree.
That being said, I think his armor looks really cool. Is that the living armor thing? But it's one of those things where it's like doing that, like they made him look more CGI-y, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So where like it looks cool.
That's got to be a hard thing to do. Like have all those things be moving as often as they do. Like got to be hard to track all that motion.
Yeah, and it looks great. Honestly, looking at 4K HDR, it looks great, but
yeah.
I wouldn't say it looks real. It's like one of those things where it's like you can have a visual effect not look real, but still look good.
I think it's because of the lighting. It's very hard to have lighting look good on reflective surfaces.
Yeah,
on CGI things.
It's almost always shiny, and it's
yeah, it's like that's not what it would look like in real life. So it's in that uncanny valley area for sure.
And you know that it looks mostly always clean. Yeah, it looks cool, but it doesn't look real. But so yeah,
it's funny we're still not in a place where we can do that. Like you think CGI has come so far, and we still can't make CGI characters look like just a plain old human. Nope. It still looks uncanny valley.
We are
despite
not
as
there.
much as we've done. You know, looking back, it's like, oh, that looked terrible. You look back at like Lord of the Rings, and it's like, oh, we've come so far, but still not there.
Absolutely not. But yeah, Steppenwolf does what he does. I mean, other than that, it plays out again the same kind of way with that like baton toss with the mother box, but it, again, just done much better. It's weird with action to kind of explain some of this, because the way a lot of filmmakers pace action, sometimes you feel the intensity of it, but with a few cuts or a few like lingering on certain movements, or adding something in can just change the whole thing and make it tense, where before it just wasn't, and you just felt nothing. It's so strange to me. It's hard to put your finger on it, but a lot of these action scenes just have that. There's not one action scene, I think, that hasn't been improved because of something. And I think this is a good time to talk about one of my favorite things that really, really changes the movie for me. And it's really important to me, is the music. It's like a brand new score by Junkie XL before it was Danny Elfman. And yeah, I think this soundtrack is awesome. It's very much more epic, where epic kind of like Hans Zimmer-esque kind of stuff, whereas Danny Elfman played it very traditional when it came to his soundtrack, very classical, had a less epic feel, in my opinion. This one's very heavy on drums, and you get like Wonder Woman has like a new kind of theme as well as her. It's like that vocalization, which is all right. That you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But we'll get to it later, I'm sure. But the addition of the Man of Steel score is like that meant a lot to me. I love that score. It's one of the best things about Man of Steel, and I felt like they haven't really utilized it that well since Man of Steel. And I feel like there's some moments here that like really worked for me because of that score. And I think a lot of that's because of my attachment to it. But I think the music sometimes during these action scenes will be like this continuous driving beat and this continuous driving thing that makes the scene feel more cohesive, where I feel like the music before made the action scenes felt a little bit more broken up. It's hard to explain, but I felt like just the action scenes, the music helped some of these action scenes flow better for me, where I felt more intense and just a little bit more into it because of this music. And it was just super important to me, at least.
I could see that. Yeah. I could see that as an improvement for sure.
Yeah.
I would agree. I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah. I mean, they're not all the music's great, but I think the music during the action stuff is really, really hype. Um, let's see. You want to talk about the Flash? What's been changed with him?
Yeah, I think that was one of my favorite scenes. I think that was one of my favorite like new things when he like saved the girl at that interview with the dog. Like, still, it was one that was like, I feel like it jumped around and it was just like, what, where are we? But I did like it. I liked it
Yeah.
a lot. It they did a lot more with Flash this time that made me just like him. And I've always liked Flash. Like from when I was a kid, I just always liked the idea of the Flash, just the speed and being able to like manipulate time. And it's just, yeah, it's just a cool character, a cool thing to like. It's more than just, oh, I can run fast. It's like you can actually like bend the time space, and like he has this like electricity power. It's a cool combination of powers. And I think this, other than maybe Cyborg, I think this was the second most majorly improved thing about this movie.
I completely agree with you on that. Like I feel like,
Despite the joke thing that I still stand by, it's still like, stop, just stop.
Every now and then it's fine, but sometimes it's groan inducing. Better.
You would know better than me, Jordan, but he's supposed to be like like some nuclear engineer or something, nuclear scientist. Isn't that right?
It differs
Barry Allen
sometimes, but yeah, I think he's a biological scientist, I think, but I'm not really completely sure. But he's a genius. Like they say it in this movie. His dad says it. He's a genius. And he is. He's supposed to be a genius. And in the original cut, you get no inclination of that. And to boot, you get the annoying jokes, but then you have the cool powers, right? He doesn't really ever, there's no point in that movie where he sticks out as doing something really cool. He's always tripping, or usually always doing something where it ends with him not really doing exactly what he wanted to do. I don't know why, but they wanted to do it, I guess. I guess Joss Whedon were like, oh, he's still learning. You got to make him cool to some extent, you know?
I feel like I feel like he should be in the same light as the Hulk. Whereas like the Hulk in Marvel movies he's a little awkward, you know? He's clearly very smart. Like they make that obvious when he like engages with Tony and like talks up theories and like science basically. And I just didn't feel like Barry Allen ever engaged in that. And I wanted a lot more of that. It's like, I'm fine if he's an awkward, like younger, you know, Flash, but he just never came off as like brilliant. He just came off as, okay, it seems like he's kind of smart, but he's also like way more awkward. Like they lean so much on that. It's like, have that, like he can be a little awkward, but then have scenes where he like super impresses people by understanding something. It's like, I don't understand social cues, but I certainly understand how to, you know, figure out this algorithm so that it'll make time, space, and bend or something, you know, something cool. But they didn't lean into that like nearly enough.
Yeah, even still, even now, not enough. There is glimmers of it where in the original there was none. Like when they were talking about the mother box,
glimmers.
Yeah, he was like engaging in that conversation, not in a jokey way, that he understands the molecule.
I just wanted a lot more of that.
Absolutely, same here. And there was in the original he was never serious, just never. Ever. But there were actually times in this, oh my God, he's serious. He's empathizing with Victor's loss, like stuff like that. He's doing things that I'm like, oh, you're actually a real person. And yeah, and the power stuff, he does cool things. He does things where I'm like, that was awesome. Like the scene you're talking about, that was freaking awesome. Where he like breaks the glass just with his sheer speed, rips out of his shoes. That's so cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We needed that so much more so we could endear ourselves to him. And that would help lead into his movie, which I always think should have came first, but at least it's like, oh, okay, that's the Flash. It was pretty cool in, you know, the Justice League movie. So
exactly. I'd like to see more of that. Other than I'd like, what was he gonna do? Trip the whole movie? And so no, it's like you see this and you're like, yeah, I gotta see something cool to want to see him more. And so yeah. That was really cool. And, you know, the visual effects, I think, again, just the color palette in this movie makes some of these visual effects shine. That's a beautiful scene where it's all in slow motion. You see all the lightning in, like, the background as he's just going in slow motion. That's cool. And that, like, separates it from, like, other speedster scenes that we've seen in the past. Because we've seen a lot of speedster scenes with, like, Quicksilver and Sonic. And so with this, it just does some things where it's like, this feels different and unique, and I'd like to see more of this.
Yeah, definitely. Such an improvement.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of that. There's obviously we'll get to what he does at the end, but there's like that scene where like he's escorting people away and a bunch of rubble falls, and then he just quickly like saves them all from rubber, and it's like, and that was sweet. Great. Yeah, I was hyped by moments like that for sure. I think that's supposed to be Iris West, by the way, even though they never say her name. That's like supposed to be his love interest. So
okay,
presumably we'll see her again.
I assume that. Yeah. She wasn't in the other movie at all, right?
Nope.
And she's like a pretty big actress. I've seen her in some other stuff.
Wow.
Weird to like just not have her shoot her scenes and just never mind.
Again, this is one of those scenes where you wonder. There's so many parts in this movie where you're like, why did they cut that? Why did they cut that? This is one of the big ones for me where I'm like, why? What reason could they possibly have? So I think, that being said, something I need to remember when asking myself that question, I believe there was a very strict rule from the studio that Justice League had to be 2 hours. And that movie is 2 hours on the button. So
that is,
maybe Joss isn't 100% to blame.
Yeah. It's tough when you have to introduce 6 different people. Like, I guess the only one they don't introduce is really Batman. They just assume you know who he is.
Here he is.
Yeah. But yeah, at least, well, 4. 4 people you have to introduce. Superman, they don't introduce, but Aquaman, Flash, Wonder Woman, Cyborg.
I forgot to bring this up. What did you think of when in the Aquaman scene when he pieces out our little music video that we got?
Oh my god!
With the Celtic singers, the Celtic women, right?
And also when he's drinking and walking out on the dock, completely different song.
And not Icky Thump.
Yeah, it's like I hate that scene so much. Oh, it's cringy. It's just like,
which one?
Okay, this is an excuse for him to take his shirt off again. And he wants to be cool by throwing down his whiskey bottle. Which
is weird because I can't imagine Arthur polluting the ocean with a shattered whiskey bottle.
That's a good point. Thanks for breaking glass where my kids play.
But yeah, that Celtic women, or what? It's not Celtic women. Obviously, they're not in Ireland. But that part was strange. Like there was
so strange.
I thought we were gonna get a little bit. I'm like, this is interesting. And then it went on.
This is getting weird.
Yeah, went on for a little bit longer, and I was like, what is this?
He's gone. Why are we still doing this?
That was weird. A little too weird. I don't know if I was feeling that. That was strange. A lot of music in this movie. A lot of slow-mo with music. We got a musical scene where that's a new scene where Lois is like walking to Superman's memorial and with
slow motion in the rain.
Yep. That's mostly what Lois did in this movie, I guess. Just kind of be sad,
Save Batman from death.
I mean, I don't really know what else you're going to show her do. I mean, just she's like,
they sure had her play a big role in Batman vs Superman, didn't they?
Yeah, I suppose. She just kind of shows up
way
here.
Too much.
Yeah, she doesn't do anything more than what she does in her original cut. It just you just see
just different.
Yeah, it's just a little different. Which, it's hard. I understand it's hard to fit Lois into things. I mean, what are you gonna get her to do? What seriously?
Yeah.
Like, is she gonna go report on Steppenwolf? I mean,
yeah. I mean, her main role is in understanding who Superman is and what he's fighting for.
Exactly, and so
that's already been established at this point.
It's like she's like let's let you know, like she's to keep the presence of Superman, I think, alive throughout the movie through her mourning, and I think that's pretty much why she's there and what her role is, instead of because Superman isn't really mentioned much in this movie until he's mentioned, which is fine. They're why would they? But yeah. Let's see. What else we got here, man? What else we got? So much. We got so much. Oh, this is definitely a big, huge, giant, huge thing that this movie has. The presence of Darkseid. in this movie is kind of throughout.
Yeah. Bunch of
Yeah.
scenes with him that weren't in the original.
Yeah, in the original you only have his name mentioned once. I think one part Steppenwolf says like for Darkseid. For the Unity for Darkseid, I think he says in like the middle, and you're to just wonder what that is unless you already know. But nope, full on.
Yeah, they showed a lot more when they flash back to the original, like coming together of all the humans and the Amazonians and all the tribes of men.
Yeah, where in the original that was Steppenwolf.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So Steppenwolf wasn't even in that scene this time, was he?
Nope, it was just Darkseid.
That's right. Yeah. I remembered they switched him out, but I was thinking Steppenwolf was in it in addition. But yeah, you're right. He wasn't in there at all. They literally just like pasted his body onto Darkseid, I guess, for that one. Yeah. I'm assuming this was probably originally filmed for Darkseid, and they just pasted Steppenwolf onto it.
What did you think of that scene?
Because it was the exact same animation when he gets like hit in the arm with the axe. Yeah. It's like exact same.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was cool. I think that establishes the weight of what's going on so much better. So, I thought that should definitely have been extended, you know, before. So,
because before I wouldn't really call it a scene. I would just call it like, oh, this one brief moment in a flashback where it's like a footnote, just a mention. But in this one, it's like, nope, this is a scene that we get, just like the opening of Fellowship of the Rings. That was like a big thing that you saw and got to witness. I felt like you were able to witness enough of that battle to kind of understand it. You get to see a little bit more of the Green Lantern, which was cool, and a lot more of the gods. And yeah, it was cool. Glad I got to see it. And like, how do you think Darkseid? It's kind of sad to talk about it, but because we're probably not going to get another one of these. But I mean, if we are in a pretend world, yeah.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous to have like such a big setup and then just, ugh. Man, if I had some control over WB, I'd be wringing some necks. It's like, Absolutely. Come on, guys. Like, you have freaking gold mine and you're mining it like blind morons.
Yep.
Like, I don't know. Hire some better people or something. Like, there's no excuse for the way they're handling this.
Yeah, it's just complete, I don't know. As you said, blind. It's crazy.
I still think that things are going to change. I saw there was some news about like this being established as the new canon, like just recently, like on IMDb, like while we've been talking. Yeah, restoring the Snyderverse. WB shuts down Suicide Squad, Ayer Cut, and restoring the Snyderverse. So I still have some hope that like with the right fan interaction, with the right fan reaction to this movie, that things could change within the DC, because there's a lot of money riding on these characters. I mean, WB, they're not going to hold on to the rights to these characters forever if they keep mistreating them. Yep. Or maybe they just own them outright. I don't know how that whole thing works. I don't know if DC Comics, has some say as to where these rights go. But if they do, they got to be questioning what they're doing with them. So,
as I said at the top,
I still have some hope that something might happen.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, like I was here saying this would never happen.
Yeah.
Here we are doing a full-on review of it.
We're living in this reality, Jordan.
So here we are. So, dude, I'm not going to say no to this. I'm not going to underestimate what is possible.
I just really hope Henry Cavill's able to stay in this universe.
Yeah, absolutely.
I went back and listened to Manisha and you, or I don't know how to say those names, but you and Manisha's conversation about Superman, and I think it would be really cool if both things could coexist in this universe. If they do want to go in another direction with Superman, there's no reason there couldn't be both things, and it just could add into the whole universe of the Justice League.
I 100% agree.
I hate it when like those things have to be mutually exclusive. Like I never understand that. It's like, why can't Peter Parker exist alongside Miles Morales? So yeah, it's just, but I really am afraid that it's not going to be the way I want. Yeah. I think too often these things seem to have to be mutually exclusive, and they can't exist in the same universe. And
the studios think of it that way, and it's not like audiences are going to line up in front of a theater where these two movies are coming out on the same day and have to choose between which one they see. It's not like that antiquated.
You guys aren't that dumb. Oh wait, maybe you are. No, but I mean, obviously that's not going to happen. But yeah, there's no reason that Henry Cavill Superman should go away. That's what I say. There's absolutely no reason.
I'd love to see him continue, and that's what I want. That being said, with how they're building things up to potentially nothing or potentially something, how do you think they're building up Darkseid?
I don't really have a problem with it. You know, I'm coming at it as someone who doesn't have a lot of history, didn't read the comics. You know, I only know from the movies I've seen over the years and have a rough understanding of what's going on. Honestly, from the video games, I think was like the first time I was introduced to Darkseid. Isn't he in like what is? No, I'm thinking of somebody else. I'm wrong. There's too many people, Jordan. There's too many people to keep track of. That's Marvel. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's like I have very little history of Darkseid, but how he was introduced in this movie, I'm fine with it. I think, you know, it feels a lot of weight. I don't like it how he looks, honestly. And it may be accurate to the comics, and if it is, then that's fine. I mean, you know, but he doesn't look that menacing. I don't know. Maybe it's something about his face. Like Thanos has this like commanding look, and maybe it's just great, you know, facial acting, like facial tracking acting, but I don't know. He just doesn't seem scary to me. And it's kind of weird when you introduce a character and then in that first thing you see him beat to a pulp. It's kind of a weird thing when he's supposed to be like the ultimate guy, and then you see him like retreating, injured, spewing blood out of his shoulder. It's like,
that's a really good point.
Oh, so he can be beat by normal people.
Yeah, you see him not normal people, but yeah. You see him defeated.
Zeus and
you should see him decimate, and not like not the first time you see him in a battle, it's a battle that he's losing. That's true. I agree with you. I think that
I like how Thanos was built up as like he is like the ultimate Titan, and he lays waste to worlds, and like he was this myth. He was like, we only saw this little thing with him like smirking, and like you said, that model wasn't as good, but it still was like, oh shoot, and I'll just do it myself. And it's like, yes, that's awesome.
Which we got here.
Exciting.
That's what we got in this movie.
Yeah, I guess so.
We got the I'll do it myself moment.
Basically.
But yeah, I mean,
we just talk about how close these mother boxes are to the Infinity Stones. I mean, I know this stuff all came about, you know, decades and decades ago when these comics were written, but this is such a similar story.
It's the exact same thing, Luke.
Yeah.
I mean, not quite, but in execution, yes. I mean, okay. So what Darkseid?
It's also similar to Man of Steel. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's just it's also very similar to the change engine that they want to change the world with.
World engine, yeah.
World engine, yeah. The world engine.
Yeah.
What is change something? Is it change engine?
It is change engine. There's the change engine and the world engine.
Okay.
Too many engines.
Confusing at all. I don't know why I got confused.
I have no idea, Luke. Dumb. But like, you know, same kind of principle. What is Thanos' goal? He wants to. Okay, well, they're a little different in this way. Thanos is like altruistic in his intent. Like he thinks he's being altruistic by being like, I just want mankind to survive. I'm going to wipe out half of humanity. That's not the goals of Thanos in the comics, but the goals of Darkseid in the comics seem to be the goals of Darkseid here. He wants complete subjugation for all living things. He wants everything to bend to his will and follow him and worship him. And that is what he does. Like he can like manipulate almost anybody. He'll like use torturers, magicians, and like hypnotists to make someone bend to his will. And the anti-life equation is the cure-all to everything. He doesn't have to go planet to planet to do it anymore. Universe, snap, mind.
Almost like a snap, yeah.
Very much
similar.
Tink. Yeah, very much. Very similar thing to where exactly. In basically an execution, pretty much the same thing.
I did like I thought of that when I was watching the movie, and then I was also like, okay, well, there's not that many things out there. I mean, you are kind of constrained by like what people are going to buy and what people are going to be interested in, and it's like humanity is obviously the ultimate prize. So if you want the ultimate bad guy, it does have to kind of be something on that level. So like I understand that. I guess I don't know. Writing's tough. Writing is very hard. It's hard to think of original ideas that don't take things off of. So I tried to give the movie and the writers a little bit of credit. It's like, I mean, it's a hard job. It's hard to think of something that's ultimately original, and it's tough.
I feel like the universe was at stake very quickly here, though. Like, it went from, okay, they're attacking the world, to, okay, we're attacking each other, to the universe is about to get snapped into complete subjugation to Darkseid if we don't do something.
And there was no mention of any of that in the old one. Let's remind people of that.
Yeah, Darkseid.
Anti-life thing.
Anti-life, no.
Nowhere to be seen.
No, nowhere to be seen. This is all the setup that was excised. And so, here it is. I think the buildup was cool. Like, there's certain scenes where she goes down, like she gets the arrow this time and it actually leads her into like some secret chamber where it like shows the legend of Darkseid. And that's pretty creepy. That's cool. And I like when he discovers that the anti-life equation is on Earth, and like Desaad is like, oh, and he leaves. And then you see all the parademons bow, and he's like, what's happening? And Darkseid appears, and he's like, holy crap. That was cool. I like that. That's pretty creepy and menacing. That's good stuff.
I think my favorite part of this movie is the ending.
Okay, let's do it.
I think the ending was just so much more improved. It was actually felt emotional. It felt like the team was working together. It felt like everybody had a role. I'm kind of torn because I want Superman to be more a part of this movie, and he really wasn't. He was only in about 10% of this movie.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that because it also gave everyone else had their chance to like play their part. Cyborg, Flash, Batman did his thing of distraction, even though it seems kind of silly. But it was good to see like everybody had their own role, and it's like there's a reason that Batman had to bring all these people together because they had to play these different roles, and they did get Superman there, but if it wasn't for all the groundwork that was laid by everyone else, it wouldn't have facilitated what happened to happen. Exactly. I say all that, and it's like, could Superman just have laid waste to everything and just stopped all this? Maybe, but
if he was there a whole time, maybe.
That's what I'm saying. It's like maybe they just should have worked on like getting Superman there, like gone to his farm, been like, please.
And, I mean, and would he been able to separate the mother boxes on his own? And how, I don't know. And
it's hard to know.
It's hard to know.
Because Cyborg did get in there, and Superman doesn't have that same ability. So I'd like to think that Cyborg played a special role. Now, on the little, I was looking at the trivia. It says Zack Snyder referred to Cyborg as the heart of the movie. And I think that's a good way of putting it. It's like,
I agree.
I think he wanted to take a little bit more pressure off of Batman and Superman in this movie. He wanted somebody else to kind of play a more integral role, and he increased Wonder Woman's role and the Flash, and obviously Cyborg was like so much more a part of what was going on, and honestly, he ended up being the savior, really. So there's just so much about this ending. I just thought it was so much more improved, and I came away from it. I will say that with one caveat. Okay. There's scenes after this movie ends. That's the way I'll say it. This movie ends, and then there are other scenes. What was really the true ending of this movie, I thought, was just much more improved. And I thought the Flash's whole thing was just so much better, like integrated into what was going on, and the stakes felt a lot higher this time.
Yeah, that was
just so much better.
I couldn't believe it. I actually was like, oh my God, like when it actually blows and we see how all our heroes...
That was insane.
That was insane. Wonderfully realized. Cool. It looked amazing.
I don't think anybody's seen that movie who doesn't know what was going on like you and I. I don't think they would really know. I don't think Bethany knew what was going on.
Yeah.
It's just like, why is the world rebuilding?
Yeah. Just time reversing.
But that was really
very
cool.
Feat. Very
It also felt very derivative of what happened in Marvel.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Reverse time to fix the future. Oh, yeah. But yeah, very much improved. As you said, I do think that's probably one of the most improved and most important changes. The climax of the movie. The action flowed better.
If that had been bad, I don't think I would have liked this nearly as much as I did.
there was so many differences. The reason what their whole plan was different. There's this thing that Joss Whedon did where he colored the sky red. It looked awful.
Yep.
It looked terrible. Like it made
didn't make sense.
Everything look bad. And like, and okay, so one of the big moments for me, you know, which of course I'm a big Superman fan, when he showed up and they played the flight music from Man of Steel, which is a very underused theme, which I still go back to that Man of Steel score and listen to the flight soundtrack, you know, the da 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 da. It's so good when he shows up and lays waste to Steppenwolf with that music.
It's like one of the first times you feel like Superman is like the bad A that he is. It's like even in Superman versus Batman, he still felt very held back.
Yeah.
And this time it was just like, you're not doing that anymore. I'm here.
Like, exactly. He steps in front of Cyborg, just steps in front.
Son.
The axe just lets the axe hit him. Not impressed. Freezes it, smashes it.
No, it's like,
awesome.
Oh my. That was one time I was like, holy crap. I actually like started saying it. It's like, that's awesome.
Yeah. I agree with you. The ending's fantastic. It makes way more sense and has a lot more tension to it. And again,
that's part of the movie by far.
I agree with you. I think that's the most improved part of the movie, and it's really good. Yeah, I mean, let's see. Before we get into the ending, I'm trying to see if there's anything else that needs mention here.
I don't call this the ending.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good call. Okay. No. Let's go ahead and get into it.
That was the official ending. This is something completely different.
We're running long anyways. Let's get into the epilogue. Did we mention this is cut into parts?
Oh my
the
gosh.
Epilogue.
Was there 7 or 8?
6 parts plus an epilogue.
Ugh, so many.
Yeah, don't release this into.
I watched this in 2 sittings for those of you who weren't privy to Jordan and I's conversation, which is everyone.
Yeah, pretty much. Just you and me. But okay, so epilogue. I mean, first we get what would really kind of be considered a regular ending. I mean, honestly, we get that montage of everyone kind of just doing their thing. Oh, how'd you get that? How'd you get that?
Still felt unnecessary, honestly.
Yeah,
it just was like, this is just extra stuff. This feels like bonus scenes.
Yeah, it's but stuff I like, stuff you could consider an epilogue. He listens to the tape of his dad, so that kind of wraps that up. And you know, the whole scene with Batman and Clark, you know, oh, how'd you get the bank to get buy like the house? Oh, I bought the bank, you know, all that stuff. And then
the scenes were fine. It just felt like a little unneeded.
Yeah, I think that's fine. That's good. That would have been a fine ending. And then here we have the return of the nightmare scenes.
I was confused. I don't understand what was happening.
Why
does Batman have a machine gun?
Well, okay, all right. So I'm fresh off Batman v Superman. Here we go. We had that nightmare scene in that one where all that was revealed to us is you see a bunch of parademons flying around, Batman's shooting people, and then he gets wrecked by Superman. He gets Superman shows up and basically, I guess, kills him. I don't know. And so here we go, returning to that desert world that looks like basically a world where probably I'd imagine whoever survived the anti-life equation are just here in this desolate world that's basically been turned into an apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess here's your ragtag team of your nightmare. We've got Mira. We got Slade Wilson, Cyborg, Flash, and the Joker. What?
It's also weird because they did the Deathstroke scene and then they went into this, and it's like, what? So he's gonna kill him? It's so confusing.
That scene, by the way, with Deathstroke and Lex Luthor, I was shocked. Out of all the scenes that I assumed was a Joss Whedon creation, it was that scene. And I still don't like that scene. I don't like it. I find like...
But that wasn't, right?
I guess not.
Snyder said there wasn't a single Joss Whedon film scene in this cut.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, guess not. I thought it was a Joss Whedon thing. Nope. And yeah, it's one of the worst.
Oh, that was in the original one?
It was It was an after credit scene.
That sounds familiar now that you say that.
Now here it is in the movie, and the dialogue's different. There's no that cringy line where he's like, "How about we form a league of our own?" You know, that's not there. The dialogue's completely different. It's not
Oh,
as bad,
Lord.
but still, I think that scene is goofy. It's one of the goofiest scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
Aside from maybe this next scene, what did you think of this scene, Luke?
Absolutely pointless in every way.
Yeah.
I hated it. It's like, you got us all excited about a Joker coming back and being this new, improved Joker. And it's like, it's just a setup so he has a little monologue. Like, I didn't get it at all. It's so weird for Joker and Batman to be sitting there talking to each other with machine guns in their hands. It's just such a weird thing. Like, Batman's got like got a nice gun. I like that gun, but
It's like, what are they talking about? You know, it's like, what are they even saying? It's like, I killed the Robin. He's like, well, when Harley Quinn died in my arms, she wanted you dead and whatever.
gosh.
Let's team up. All right.
Oh.
I mean, that's the basis of it. I mean, what else? They're saying a bunch of random crap that I'm sure that it was all improv from what I heard. This is the one scene with them and the Joker that, well, not the one, but one of the few scenes that was a reshoot. They filmed this for this. And it feels like it.
Yeah, you could tell Batman looked a little older too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just worthless.
Yeah, I don't like
and
it.
Where were the other? There's like shots of like the Joker in the like set photos. None of that crap's in the movie.
They were just having a jolly
like
old time.
Prison cell. There's like him like dressed up like Jesus. It's like, what? None of that's in there.
They're just goofing around one day. They're like, let's have a photo shoot.
Carry machine guns around. You could have goggles on your head. Like, what?
I don't know,
could
man.
look like Heath Ledger's Joker a little bit with long hair.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta, tell you, I was, kind of looking forward to seeing the Joker and what he was gonna do, why he was here, what he was going to say, and yeah, I am
further cementing that like Jared Leto's Joker is like gonna be forgotten quickly.
I don't like it. There's something about it that seems masturbatory in a way, whereas it's like he's gonna watch how weird I am. That's always my complaint about his Joker. It's like he's that kid in high school that did a bunch of weird things to prove how weird he was, where the Joker isn't that way. He's just freaking weird. But this seems like someone trying to be weird. And yeah,
absolutely,
it's the same problem. So yeah, I'm not sold by this at all. But thankfully it isn't our last scene. I'm not too crazy about this, but it's definitely better than that. I was so scared, Luke. I was so scared. So we heard reports. We talked about it. They came out and said there's going to be a massive cliffhanger at the end. I thought when Superman landed, it was going to be a cut to freaking credits. Thankfully, that wasn't the case.
Did I miss this scene?
I don't know.
We have missed this scene.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think the Joker thing was the last thing I saw.
So, okay, so what we got is Batman waking up.
You can describe it, and then I'll just see it.
Okay.
I'll just go down and watch it.
So Batman wakes up from here. He hears a sonic boom in the air. Then he comes outside, and we see something flying down, and it is the character that we were sort of introduced to before. It is Martian Manhunter.
Okay. Yeah. No, I remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it feels strange and really fan servicey. But it's fine.
That's this entire movie.
Yeah, kind of. It's fine though. He shows up. He's like, "You can call me Martian Manhunter. I'm here to help. I've been hiding from this world for too long, but here I am. You've done a really good job, Bruce. I'm proud of you. Let's do this. See you later." Pretty much that.
I need to go back. I'm going to go back and watch that because that
doesn't feel familiar to you.
I think I missed that. Yeah.
I mean, we didn't really talk about it, but he shows up before in the movie where you see Martha Kent show up to talk to Lois, and they just have a conversation about shared loss, and she leaves and her eyes glow, and she morphs into him, and he says a line like, "The world needs you too, Lois," and leaves. So yeah, that's fine. If assuming we'd get more of this character, that's fine. But for what it is now, he's just, hey, look, we were gonna do Martian Manhunter stuff, and we were gonna tease him in this movie.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking on YouTube trying to find that scene. So I remember like Superman like walking away and like opening up the cape to like the opening up his coat to like black. Is that before the scene you're talking
That
about?
was before the nightmare scene. We got that scene where everyone kind of does their thing.
Okay.
Arthur swims away.
There's so many of these little
Flash
scenes. It's
is
hard to
running.
remember which one was which.
Then we get the nightmare scene. Well, no, we get the Lex Luthor scene, then the nightmare scene. Then he wakes up to hear a sonic boom where Martian Manhunter pays him a visit. And then Bruce acts kind of funny about it. He's like, "Can I help you?" It's kind of funny actually, but because he's so desensitized at that moment, so crazy crap. He's just like, "All right," it's a little funny, but yeah, there it is.
Yep, it was a journey.
Yeah, and that's the credits, and we get the For Autumn thing, which is nice. It's his daughter, which obviously a tragic thing happened with his family, and
so sad.
They played Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley in the piano version of it, and that's apparently his daughter's favorite. It was his daughter's favorite song, and so that's very nice, of course, and that's a horrible thing for him to go through. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I mean, I think we pretty much summed up our thoughts as we went through. Again, I think it came clear that this is obviously not perfect, and I don't think it's a great movie, but I really enjoyed it, and there's something about it to me, flaws and all, that felt authentic, aside from maybe that nightmare scene. Whereas there's something that felt so counterfeit about that original cut, where it felt like we never really got a Justice League movie, I guess. And we'll never really know. And so it's nice to have something where you're like, well, this is it. It's here. This is Justice League. Well, Justice League finally came out, didn't it? And
it's interesting. I mean, I'm glad at least what happened, and I hope that there's changes. I mean, I'm even looking through like what's said on IMDb, and it's still like there won't be any more sequels to elaborate on the events until Warner Brothers decides otherwise. So it's like, yeah, I mean, money talks, right? I mean, if there's people out there who are ready to pay for a ticket or a streaming account, whatever the future looks like for movies, which could be a thing that decides whether or not these big movies are going to be made. We've talked about that before. I'm concerned that streaming means that movies will just become smaller, and so a Justice League sequel, which would cost an insane amount of money to film, it just may not be a reality in a theater-less future. But I still have hope that theaters are all going to come back. But if they don't, I think that'll be a big nail in the coffin of any future Justice League movies. But I mean, the Flash is in pre-production, so I mean that's a good sign. I can only imagine if some of these separate movies ended up doing well, maybe an Aquaman 2 comes out and actually impresses me and is a good movie. Maybe that'll change things. But it's like a bad Wonder Woman movie, and then an improvement on Justice League, but I don't know if it'll be enough to like push WB to continue this. All this stuff has to make financial sense. For us, it's emotional because it's characters we know, but it's like if Apple released an iPhone that wasn't accepted very well by the public, like it would really set their progress back on making the next iPhone. I mean, these are two companies that do the exact same thing. They have people who research whether or not, the ROI on a project is going to make sense for them financially. And so, if there's enough fans out there, it will. And if there's not, then it won't. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's not really about the art as much. The creative people are there for the art and to make it good, but the business guys are there to greenlight a project or not greenlight it. And if you have enough duds, they're just going to stop greenlighting things.
Yeah.
So we're right on the edge, I think. And this movie, I think, helped go in the other direction, but it wasn't like the revolution that I was kind of hoping it would be, where it's like, this movie is amazing. It made the other movie look like a piece of garbage, and now everything's restarted. It wasn't that, but it was a big improvement.
They wanted to make, I think, the original Justice League for everyone, and it ended up being for no one. Because it just ended up not being a good movie.
It just ended up, being a bad movie.
So I understand what they need to make these giant movies. As we said, this movie, when all is said and done, it's cost the Warner Brothers $400 million to do this, like from the original plus to do what they needed to do to make this one
That's
come
insane.
out. $400 million. And yeah, I mean, you only get movies like Infinity War and Endgame if they are movies that, yeah, your mom, your little sister will go see, or and not have to know all this stuff about DC Comics. And so, yeah, it's hard to imagine that they'll want to be like, okay, 200 million more, and we'll see
For
who
Justice
comes.
League 2, that's definitely not going to be like, come on, daughter, let's go see what Darkseid's going to do.
Let's see Darkseid. Let's see our heroes and Batman and Joker with a gun fighting in the sand. Yeah, it's just, I don't know.
I wish they'd left those ending scenes out. Just like release them to the fans or something. Make them an extra thing that you like click on the streaming thing.
Yeah.
Don't make them people think that's like part of the canon of the movie. It just, I think it takes away from what was a drastic improvement.
Exactly. That being said, by the way, I mean, we talked about the cliffhanger ending, not nearly as awful and horrible as I feared. I feared the worst when I heard massive cliffhanger. I was like, oh my God, massive setup is what I will say. I don't think this movie has a cliffhanger per se. No. It's massive setup. So that was a relief.
They took care of business. And then it's like, oh, something else might happen.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't end with stinging pain, which was what it would have been for me.
It was Infinity War was a massive cliffhanger.
Massive cliffhanger, and we
knew. The biggest I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah, and the end was already filmed, so we knew we would get the resolution next year if we all survived to see it. And so,
or any of the Lord of the Rings, it's like you really want to go back and see the rest of the story.
Yes, and so that was a fear that was relieved a little bit for me after this was over. And so, but again, what kind of hurts this is, as you said, by the way, what proves to Warner Brothers that this deserves more? What proves it? Is it more subscriptions? Is it lingering subscribers going past the free trial date? What is it? Like before, the votes were easy to count. Tickets purchased. How much money did it make at the box office? That's easy. What is it now?
Well, that being said, I mean, there was this movement that brought the Zack Snyder cut out, right? I mean, it kind of felt like it was like a grassroots internet thing that really got this going. I mean, maybe it's as simple as a hashtag. Like if a hashtag gets enough attention and maybe some stars retweet and comment, I don't know, Zach gets his buddies to join in.
Yeah.
I don't know who that would be. The stars of the movie, other directors. I don't know. Anybody involved in like the, comic book movie world. I think if you get enough heavy hitters, it's just like anything. It's like anything in sports or business. It's like it's all about, people influencing other people to do stuff. And so
I mean, it's well, as you said,
there's probably a group of like 12 people that makes this decision. Just guessing. It's probably the top people of the board of the Warner Brothers Entertainment or whatever. It's probably those people, they have a guy who heads up the studio in LA, he works down there, he keeps everything moving, and he asks them if they're okay with it. And then that guy, talks to directors and talks to Zack Snyder and talks to writers and everything. And it's like that chain of command. It's like if those guys up top are told by their CFO, or whoever the CFO is advised by that, hey, like there's enough of a movement here that we can make some money, then it happens. But yeah, it's a complicated chain of events that it's like you have to have people start talking about it online, and then you have to have some big enough names to like get the attention of the studio head. Like the whole thing when what's his name, the Guardians of the Galaxy director, James Gunn, when James Gunn lost his job, like how did that start? Like that seemed like it hit out of nowhere. It's like all of a sudden a tweet from 10 years ago resurfaces and he's fired, like almost feels like overnight. It's like, where did that come from? So if something like that could happen, like it seems like something like this could happen, kind of the other way for good.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as you said, as you talked about, like when people were talking about like BVS and the original Justice League, word of mouth was not good. Word of mouth here is fairly good. Like people, like especially people who are most passionate are happy with what they got. And there's a lot of people, even critics, who are happy with what they got. And so word of mouth can make a huge difference. What's this Snyder cut that a lot of these people are talking about? And it can introduce some of the uninitiated into something maybe they want more of. So it's a possibility. Absolutely. Again, I'm not ruling out anything anymore.
Yep. That's right.
But yep, here we are. We got it. And the only thing I do wish, I wish that obviously that it was a little shorter. I mean, obviously for obvious reasons, but for me personally, I would like to rewatch it a little bit more often, maybe like, here and there. But it's so long, that's going to be not something I do very often. But I'll definitely be getting it on 4K Blu-ray, and I hope it's a good one with a lot of features, because I am fascinated by some of this behind the scenes stuff and commentary.
Just want like interviews from Zack. Just want to hear like, I don't know, some stories.
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's such a tough thing. I'm sure it's going to be like one of the like most important movies for him in his like lifetime, just because it's so tied in with his daughter. And I mean, I just can't even imagine. It's like, I have a son now. Like, I can't even fathom. It's so terrible. I'd feel terrible for him and his family, and I can't blame him at all. It's just a horrible chain of events where he's like on what was probably one of the biggest movies that he was excited to like direct, and then just the worst thing imaginable for a human being happens, and then he's got to like deal with that mentally, and obviously deal with his wife, and I don't know if he has other kids, but
yes,
it's just terrible. And it's just, I don't know what all he could say that isn't to do with that, and is to do with like, it's just it's a cool thing. It's almost feel like somebody should make a movie about what happened here.
They will. I assure you that is going to happen. Again, this is something we haven't seen in film history, I think. And so I think it's going to be something that books are going to be written about, and there will be documentaries about, and it will be studied in film class in whatever way.
Josh Whedon will be the bad guy, I guess.
Maybe. But yeah, I agree. I'm glad this is a win for Zack Snyder. This is a total win for him, and I'm happy for him. And from all accounts, he's a nice guy. And I'm glad that his fans and a lot of people are enjoying this, and that they were able to make it happen. And that's very cool. So yeah, all in all, regardless of your feelings about the movie, I think it's a good thing that it's out.
Oh yeah, definitely an improvement.
Yeah.
Still don't love this movie, but definitely an improvement.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say I love it either. I really like it. I really do like it. It's a huge improvement from the original, and I do really like it. It makes me feel good about the movie. But yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, I think that basically covers it. Good jumbo episode of us going on and on about this movie. I knew that would freaking happen, but I'm glad we were able to do this. I had a lot of fun talking about this one, and I'm sure
right.
Who knows? We might be talking about news about this movie, or maybe upcoming movies in the future. Who knows? All right.
HBO Max, they got a full slate for us this year. So.
Yeah, we sure do. We're going to be talking about that stuff. Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla
Disney
versus Kong,
Plus stuff too.
Oh yeah. It's exciting. A lot of stuff around the corner. All right. Well, that's our episode, man. I'll see you next week when we do the thing again.
See you guys later.